As you go through this lecture, ponder on this question. What kind of response does Webhook send back to Dialogflow? The integration of Dialogflow with Webhook, what kind of response does Dialogflow expect? Is it a string? Is it JSON? What is it? We are now ready to write the actual Python code which will retrieve weather information from the Open Weather API. This code will be written in Python using Flask. Now, you don't need to have Python installed on your machine because we're not going to actually execute this code on your local machine. We'll simply host it on Heroku, that is our platform as a service, and it will be executed there. So I'm just going to write the Python code in my favorite web editor. I happen to choose Xcode because it's installed on the Mac machine that I'm using. Here are the Python libraries that you need to import for your code to function. We'll import the JSON library and import the OS library. The JSON library allows you to parse a Python dictionary into a JSON object. It also helps you convert Python dictionaries or lists into JSON strings, so it's very useful. You might be familiar with the OS library. These are both common libraries in Python, and this allows you to use operating system dependent functionality from within your code. These are generic imports. Now we'll import specific libraries from the Flask micro framework. Now, Flask is a micro web framework for Python. It's a micro framework because it does not depend on other libraries or other complex frameworks. Flask gives you all the tools, libraries, and everything you need to build a very simple web application. We are importing the Flask request and the make underscore response libraries from Flask. The first step is to create an instance of a Flask app for our web application that we are planning to build. And in the next step, we set up the app route decorator in Flask. Now, if you want to understand exactly how the app route decorator works, I suggest you look up the Flask docs. It's actually pretty involved and very interesting. The only thing that you need to know here is that when the webhook URL is hit, the decorator will basically cause the function that you're going to define to be called. We are going to define a function right under this decorator. A decorator applies to a particular method. That is the function that will be called when our webhook URL is hit. The app route decorator by default expects that the URL will be hit using a get method, but in Dialogflow's integration with Webhook, it will send us a post request. The method is equal to post argument that we specify in the app route, basically indicates that this URL is going to be hit with the post method. The method that this particular app route decorator decorates is the webhook method. And this method is specified right below the decorator, as you can see on screen. We first need to extract information from the JSON data that has been sent along with the post request. This we do using the request library from Flask. We say request.getJSON in order to get the JSON data. Now, if the MIME type of the incoming request is not set to application.json, then this function will return none. But we can simply override this by setting force is equal to true. When force is set to true, it won't check for the MIME type specifically. Whatever the MIME type is, it will still try to convert it to JSON. The second parameter, that is silent, is set to true to have this method fail silently. That means if the incoming data is not in proper JSON format, this will fail without throwing an exception. So silent is true here as well. Then whatever JSON I've received from the post request, I simply print it out to screen. Once I have this JSON data, the next steps for me are to extract the relevant information from the incoming request, use the parameters to make a query to the Open Weather API, and finally get the weather for the particular day, construct a response which Dialogflow will understand, and send it back to Dialogflow. Now, these are all the steps that the make response function will do. This is a helper function which I'm going to write in the next lecture. Don't confuse it with the make underscore response from Flask. The response that we construct after querying the Open Weather API, we'll then have to pass to the make underscore response function from Flask. This will set up the response to be in the right format for our webhook response in a format that Dialogflow understands. We also set the content type header to be of type application forward slash JSON because this is a requirement from the Dialogflow end. The response has to be of the type JSON, and the header content type has to be set accordingly. This JSON response in the right format is what we return to Dialogflow. Now, coming back to the question, what kind of response does Webhook send back to Dialogflow? This is a response in the JSON format in the correct structure that Dialogflow can understand. What that structure is, we'll see soon.